So, Dr. Logan, is there any cost for the replacement pouch, that we put in our cell phones in? Is there any money that has come out of my pockets? Oh, excuse me, my parents' pockets. Is there anything that they have to pay for these for the cell phone pouch?
Initially, every student is given a free pouch. However, if you lost or damaged your pouch, schools are charged between $30 or $40 for a replacement.
Okay.
Great question. Stopping the burner phones, that's going to happen, right? The only way we can help reduce that is frequent checks to ensure that students have their true cell phone in their pouch.
What's up, guys? Welcome to the Lunchroom, where we have honest conversations about topics that are impacting students every day. I'm your host, Paige Hawkins,
And I'm Brandon Dowling.
and we are joined today with Dr. Darnell Logan. How are you today?
Great. I'm very excited to be here.
Do you mind giving viewers insight on your job here at DeKalb County School District?
Yes, my name is Dr. Darnell Logan. I am the Director of Student Relations, and our office handles overall discipline for the district. We also have proactive measurements in place to keep kids' behavior, assisting with controlling their behavior, such as positive behavior intervention support, de-escalation, and restorative practices.
Thank you. Today, we're talking about the Disconnect to Reconnect initiative, a cell phone locker policy put in place to help students disconnect from their screens, stay present, and reconnect with the real world.
We'll explore what this program is all about, how it works, and what it can mean for students' focus, relationships, and well-being. Let's dive in and find out how unplugging might just help us reconnect in ways we didn't imagine.
Dr. Logan, to
Yes.
start, why do you think the idea of eliminating cell phones in schools become topic of debate?
So across the country right now, as you can see, there's this big push to have students disconnect from their phones in school because there has been a lot of research showing that there's been a lot of research showing that consistent cell phone use for students has harmful effects. So we're not talking about eliminating them overall, but there needs to be a place and time for students to use cell phones. And our student code of conduct has always banned cell phones during the instructional day for students.
So, in terms of banning cell phones, do you want to ban them completely, like take them start of the day and don't give it back to the end of the day, or do you want to just take it away for instructional time?
So that's a great point because we always get that question from the community. And our student code of conduct, like I said, has always banned cell phones in school. So we're talking about banning cell phones for the instructional day, which always been in place. But Disconnect to Reconnect is this campaign where we are bringing more awareness to cell phone usage during the school day and how it negatively impacts students' education. So we're looking at, or we are implementing procedures and processes to have students disconnect from their cell phones from the day they come in the building to when they leave the building. After that, of course, if they're on field trips, they're on the bus, they can still have access to their phone. But during the instructional day, it's taken away from students' learning.
Okay.
Thank you. What do you think are some of the key benefits to banning cell phones in the classroom?
So there are key benefits. Some of the key benefits are, which we have noticed, is that's keeping students more engaged. Just walking around buildings, sitting in cafeterias, you can hear students talking more. You can hear students getting more engaged during academic instruction in the classroom. We have also noticed a significant decrease in behaviors that are associated with cell phone usage, such as students setting up fights, students texting each other during the school day, involving whatever may have happened outside of school or during the weekend. We have noticed a significant decrease as we have been pushing forward with this campaign for Disconnect to Reconnect.
I'm glad you mentioned, us texting each other during the school day, setting up fights and whatnot, all the instigating and stuff. Do you believe eliminating phones might reduce, social media pressures, distractions, leading to a, more healthy environment for school?
See, I'm glad you said that. The ultimate goal is a more healthy environment for our students within the learning. And cell phones take away from that. Children are addicted. Adults are addicted to their consistent cell phone usage. So for us to try to eliminate that and get back to true learning during the school day is the main push for disconnect to reconnect. It's not a punishment. It's to reconnect kids back to learning, to get kids back involved in what's happening in school instead of being isolated by their cell phone usage.
Yeah, I'm glad you said it's not a punishment because our teachers just they some of them just introduced this to us when we got back from winter break, and they're talking about how they're gonna take some teachers are gonna take your cell phones away. Some teachers are oh yeah, you're mature enough, just keep your cell phone out of sight, out of mind. So some kids they're moaning and groaning like, oh man, why we have to do this. So I'm glad you stated that it's not a punishment, but it's for our well being.
It's not a punishment. And just let me reiterate, there's 3 prongs to disconnect to reconnect. That's the initiative. First prong is our policy. Our policy regarding cell phones has always been in place. So we're putting a bigger focus on school staff, teachers, administrators, emphasizing the policy. Then we have cell phone lockers that are being piloted in 8 of our schools. Then we have the cell phone yonder pouches that are being piloted in 10 of our schools. So we are using 3 different ways to promote disconnect to reconnect. And we have seen, as of now, great data regarding the reduction of discipline across the district as we navigate through those 3 modes.
Gotcha.
Okay. I'm glad you brought up the pouches. Now, for some parents, the concern is what if there's an emergency and teachers are not able to contact the parents?
Great question. We always get that question, particularly from parents. What if there is an emergency, right? Well, if there is an emergency, your cell phone can actually be a hindrance to emergency personnel coming to the school. We have noticed in the past when schools have did lockdown drills, right? Or there may have been something happening in the community and the school went to a lockdown. Students have been calling, texting their parents. Parents have been rushing up to the school. In a true emergency, that can cause a concern by backlog of traffic and preventing emergency personnel from coming through. Also within our schools, parents can call the school and be directly connected to their child's classroom via the phone. We also have a mass text messaging system. They can text message parents, robocalls the parents in case of true emergencies. And in addition, if a true emergency is happening, we need kids to be able to focus and pay attention to adult instruction instead of being distracted by their phones. So we have safety procedures that have always been in place prior to even students having cell phones.
Okay, thank you.
In regards to the challenges of eliminating cell phones, what do you think some of the those challenges would be if schools, decide to ban cell phones completely? Like, as I said earlier, taking the phones as soon as you get to the classroom, or like you said, you have implemented cell phone lockers. What do you think if that was not just like 8 or 10 of those schools? If that was for all the schools, how do you think that would be impacted? What would the challenges be for those schools?
I mean, and I want to go back to what I said originally. Banning cell phones has always been a practice according to our student code of conduct. So schools across the district, students should not have their phones during the instructional day, right? So that is something that should be going on, and it is going on in most of our schools. Granted, there are pockets where we are not always following through with implementation. We get that things happen, right? But overall, that is the push, and that is the messaging with disconnect to reconnect, that across our schools in the DeKalb County School District, students should not have immediate access to their cell phones during the day. Now, if a student needs to make a call, needs to reach their parents, even in our schools that have the yonder pouches, administrators have a magnet that can immediately unlock their phones. And then we have buildings that have cell phone lockers. Students can easily access their cell phone lockers in case if they just need to make the call to the home.
Okay, so since DeKalb County is one of the largest counties in Georgia, do you feel as though it's a bigger issue in DeKalb other than smaller schools?
No, good question. This is a nationwide trend. If you look what's happening across the nation, like the state of California is working on implementing truly banning cell phones across all of their schools. There is federal legislation that is being pushed to address cell phones. Even our state legislation is having school districts come up with ways to effectively address cell phone usage in schools from students. So this is actually a nationwide trend. And when we went to move towards looking at how can we further reduce cell phone restrictions in the schools, we looked at other districts across the country We interviewed personnel from districts. We interviewed area superintendents. We had vast discussions with people across the country who were doing things differently to address the cell phone concern or the cell phone epidemic within our schools.
Okay.
Okay, Dr. Logan, it's a concern amongst students and parents. If my phone becomes damaged while in a yonder pouch or a locker, is the school responsible for the um for the damages?
Great question. Great question. And we get that question. And we have had some pouches damaged, some cell phones damaged during this process. However, the school district is not responsible for replacement of any cell phone because once again, as I go back to our student code of conduct, cell phones are not allowed in schools and staff have the option to confiscate phones from schools, and that's clearly written. Therefore, if it's not supposed to be here, we assume no responsibility when the phone is damaged within the school setting. So the district is not responsible for its cell phones damage.
Okay.
So now that it's being implemented or soon to be implemented in DeKalb County schools, how would these procedures work? Would it be start to finish? Would it be certain periods only? How would the procedures go about on the daily basis?
Great question. So we give some of our schools autonomy on how they implement this.
Okay.
Overall policy, we're discussing policy across the board. For our schools with our yonder cell phone lockers, it may vary. Students in most of our schools, students walk through the door, they show the pouch, the staff make sure the student's pouch is locked. They also do random checks to ensure that students are not putting their burner phones in their pouches. So those random checks are occurring. In our schools that have cell phone lockers, students are walking to their classrooms and they're putting the cell phones in the lockers. Some schools allow the students to have the cell phone during transition, then the next class put it into the locker. Some of our middle schools, when students arrive to school, they put the cell phone in the locker in the first period class and it stays there until the end of the day. And then the schools have various systems how to get those back to students. So it's going to vary, but the overall arching message is even if you're in a school where you have your phone during the transition, it should not be out, it should not be seen, and we should not see you using the phone. So there's various modes of how that's done.
Also, so I know what the cell phone locker would look like. I'm gonna assume it's like a little kind of like a mini version of a regular high school or middle school locker. What would the pouches look like? Is that like something like that a teacher or principal just carries around with them, or is it something that they have in like a main office of the school? How would
Right. So I apologize for not having one with me, but every cell phone pouch is about the size, maybe it's about this big. And then students put their phones in it. It's locked with a magnet. And in order to unlock that magnet, it's locked with a device that can only be opened by a magnet. And our administrators have handheld magnets that they can hold and unlock it. Also, in some of our schools, we have magnets posted around the building. So when it's time to exit, students can unlock their phones as they exit. And during the school day, those magnets are not there. So we can put them up when it's time to exit the building. Some of them are in lockers against the wall that we can unlock. And students just tap their pouches against the magnet, open it, and pull their phones out.
this county's real tech savvy?
So we're working on it.
Cut magnets. You got cell phone lockers.
And it's still a process. It's still a process to gain 100% compliance for our staff, our students, as we move for this implementation.
Gotcha.
Now, for our final question, you mentioned burner phones. I would like to ask, how will schools stop students from using burner phones inside the pouches, as well as students also carry around iPads? That's very common in today's society. So
Yeah, great question. Stopping the burner phones, that's going to happen, right? The only way we can help reduce that is frequent checks to ensure that students have their true cell phone in their pouch. That's the only way we can address that. So students are going to get away with that, but we are going to do random checks and eventually catch those students. In terms of iPads, every student has an iPad, but iPads has not been the main concern regarding students being disconnected from learning. Mm-hmm. Students are easily using their cell phone to cheat, to do things like that, take inappropriate images, pictures, and share videos. The iPads can be used for that, but that is not the overarching concern because almost every single student in our buildings, particularly middle and high school, has a cell phone. Every kid does not have an iPad or a smartwatch.
well, guys, that wraps up today's episode of The Lunchroom. We hope you learned something about the Disconnect to Reconnect initiative to keep the conversation going. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to stay in touch when we drop our next episode.
And hey, we love to hear from you guys. Drop your thoughts and questions in the comments and let us know what topics you want us to cover in the future. As always, thank you for hanging out with us. And remember to stay curious, stay connected, and we'll see you in the next episode of The Lunchroom.
Bye,
Bye, guys.
everyone.